Hello folks, we're back with another WIP Wednesday, taking a look at what's on the work desk this week. So what I have right here are Ground Zero Games 25mm Stargun figures. These are the Eurasian Solar Union figures, which I've done up here in a kind of urban camo, using the Army Painter Wolf Gray as a base coat, and then going from there. I did a test, and I really like the way it turned out, except for the weapons. I wound up taking the weapons a little bit darker to help make them pop out of the figure a little bit more. I felt that with this test piece, the weapons were just too light and they kind of blended into the armor plates, whereas here, when I went with a much darker color, the weapons popped out a lot better. So these are part of their platoon pack. They did come with a couple of figures in what they call cold weather capes, but that I am going to be painting up as camouflage capes, electrical stealth capes, and the Tomorrow's War universe, the Chinese troops, which these guys are going to be representing, have some personal stealth technology. So that's what I'm going to use those for. These guys are pretty good little foot soldiers. I really like them. They're going to complement the ones that I use for the conscripts from the Democratic People's Republic of Glory, the Space North Koreans. They're going to complement them very well against the Republic of Arden troops, the Space French, if you will, that they're going to be fighting against. I need to put in an order for some more. This definitely does not represent a full platoon, especially once you start, I have 3 NCOs here, a communications guy who may double as a drone operator. Once you get down to it, there's just not enough riflemen in this platoon. I also painted another round of test figures for the Oceanic Union Defense Force guys here, the ones from Eureka, from the same Stargrunt line. I did some a while back, and I just never wrote down what I did. So I redid these guys as a test. And it's hard to see because I painted over most of it, but this uses the Army Painter Army Green spray primer for the base coat, the primer and base coat here for the camo. And on the original ones, I went with a really dark green and a brown for the camo, and then on these, I'm going with a lighter brown and a gray. I liked how it turned out on the urban camo. So I used the gray and the brown here over the green for a forest camo. So these guys are going to represent some kind of mercenary force for me. The Oceanic Union Defense Force in the Stargrunt, the Tuffleyverse, is Pacific Rim islands and whatnot. So that's not something that's in the Tomorrow's War universe, especially not on Glory, the planet where my games are going to take place. So these guys, I need to finish basing them. I need to put the flex metal strips on the bottom. And then these guys here just need final sealing up and retouching the bases a little bit. Some of these heavy weapons need another coat of gray, and then to be finished up. And then I'm going to be moving on to the colonists that I have here. So I prepped these guys and then epoxied them to the bases yesterday, and now I need to go over the bases with Milla putty and come up to the tabs here so that these integral tabs are not that much of a problem. You can see there's a pretty thick tab on there. So I just Milla put them up even them out. I have a number of these Colonial Militia figures, again from Ground Zero Games 25mm range. I have a number of armed civilians. So these are going to be the more organized militia, and then the armed civilians are just going to be civilians who grab their guns and come and join them. The milliput, I like giving the milliput a couple of days to cure. So I'm going to milliput these up probably tonight and tomorrow, and then let them sit to the weekend, and then I'm going to put my basing paste on them that looks like gravel. Part of the collection that I bought also has a number of these Ground Zero Games drones. I don't know what these are. I know the Ground Zero Games. And John a lot of times throws a lot of freebies in if you order a big thing. So I think this guy ordered so much that John threw in a whole bunch of freebies for him. These are probably part of their 15mm range. But these are going to be great observation drones. There's a number of guys as part of their forces that have like some sort of communications gear. These guys can easily be drone operators, so I'm going to paint these up very generic so that they can be used with any of my forces. I also have a bunch of West End Games 25mm Star Wars. Part of what got me on this Ground Zero Games kick is these guys measure up fantastically with the Ground Zero Games guys. So I got a bunch of these based up. I did a couple of different stages of test schemes here, and I like this as basically a bunch of dry brushes, over brushes and dry brushes, instead of using washes or contrast paint. So they need their bases, finished. They need to be puttied, leveled out with putty, and then have some basing paste put on them. So there's a whole bunch of those guys that need to get done. So that'll take a day or two. And then when I'm moving on to painting, by the end of the week, is going to be these Terminator Genisys resistance fighters. They're neat little figures. They're definitely 28mm. You scale them up to the 25mm guys, and they're just much larger, a head above. So these guys are going to be good for my 28mm games. Some of the Terminators. The Dreamforge games Eisenkern, they scale up very well with the Dreamforge games Eisenkern. But they have very limited options for weapons. So basically, they have a plasma rifle, they have a missile launcher, they have a grenade launcher, and then they have a number of regular weapons, shotguns and carbines that in the game system do basically nothing. So I wound up making up some of the other weapon options that are presented in the rules, but not modeled with the figures. So I have some of War Games Factory survivors and mercenaries, or spec ops guys, with rocket launchers. We have a number of rifles, light machine guns. I also put a lot of different equipment options, or little doodads on them, greebles, if you will, to kind of spruce them up, give them a little better look. So I want to paint these guys up. I also, it's a little hard to see in the video here, I gave the weapons, the slung weapons, I gave them slings with green stuff. So that was neat, sculpting that. A lot of gap filling on here. These arms aren't meant to go together. They're the same scale, and there's enough contact points on there to glue them on, but then there's a bunch of gap filling to make a lot of these arms work. So they're all done. They're ready to go. Need to start slapping some paint on them. So that is what's going to be worked on this week. Once I finish those bases up tonight, I'm going to start priming and painting these Terminator Genisys resistance fighters. Okay, thanks for tuning in.